start the last hour of the week. National championship head coach Scott Drew, Baylor, joins us. Greg Smoke, Paul Catalina, and David Smoke on 365 Sports. So what is the pride factor when you see your young men in Jacoby Walter, Yves Misi, and then, of course, even Jalen and Ray J last night both getting to sign? But what's it like to be there and watch their names being called, and that's become a habit for the Baylor men's basketball program?
Well, we're the only program in the last 4 drafts to have a top 19 pick. So that is a great blessing and a privilege to be a part of, and obviously the players all deserve it. It's one of those nights that there's 8 billion people in this world, and you got 30 called in the first round, 30 in the second round, and now it's divided in 2 days, so it's even harder. I mean, you think about it, 8 billion to be a top 30 pick. That's tough. That's tough odds, but we had 2 of them, and it was a great night.
What is the protocol for? The guys are sitting there, they're waiting to get their name called. It was a draft there was no clear what's going to go on here. Some years, that you could probably write down the top 10 in any order. This year was not that. And what was that like? How do you have to calm them down? Do they get nervous? Like, what's going on there?
Well, I've been to a lot of drafts, which means we've been blessed to have a lot of great players to put the team first. I'll pull the curtain back and I'll kind of human nature. Let's say you work out for 15 teams. Out of those 15 teams, let's say it's 7 or 8 really like you. Well, really like you, you might be 5th on their draft board. You might be 1st on their draft board. And then let's say someone's picking at 12. Well, let's say that somebody that they thought would be the 4th pick is still there. So now you might have thought you were going 12, but they end up taking that one person that got overlooked or slid in the draft. Or let's say you thought you were going 12, and I'm just throwing out a number, like let's say 10, let's say 15. Let's say that team that really liked you, they want to now all of a sudden got posed a great trade, and now they're no longer picking there. And so, like, no matter what you think's going to happen, you never know what's going to happen. And then by human nature, this was with my brother. I'll just speak from that experience. He goes 16th, an unbelievable experience, but he had worked out the night before a second time for Orlando, and they were drafting, I think, 7, 9, and 11. And, like, you're bummed you go 16 because you were hoping you were going 7, What I'm saying is everybody always hopes for the best case, right? And the reality is most times it's not best case. So as you're sitting there and a team comes up and you're like, well, they really like me, and then they don't take you, then I mean, it's a long process. I mean, those guys might be there 5 hours that are there for the first round. And because after you're drafted, you have to go through interviews and pictures and everything. So my point is it's more stressful and it's not like, so you're hoping for best case. That eventually, when you get drafted, the excitement about that, walking on the stage, getting to the interviews, and God always got the perfect plan for you. But I just say that to, like, we've been at the draft where, I mean, it's really hard when you think you're going a certain spot and then they don't take you. And then you're on TV, so it's not like you can look disappointed.
Yeah, right. Yeah, you're absolutely
That's
right.
a great point.
How about Davion being teammates with Jacoby Walter now?
Well, and then that part of it was awesome from the standpoint. Jacoby, he's such a hard worker, such a great young man, but he got a big brother now. Mm-hmm. I mean, Davion is somebody that he can go work out with, learn from, and there is a lot of downtime. 82 games, you travel together, and that. So having guys on the team that you respect, look up to, have things in common as far as work ethic, character. I mean, that's a blessing for both of them.
So I had a writer who covers the Raptors and the Davion Mitchell and what they need. And he was talking about that, the style and what he brings to the table. And he loves his, of course, that off night as a nickname too. You have players who come back, and I'm sure programs do. But, Scott, it seems like you have been able to do that from guys that played back in the early parts of when you started to coach at Baylor. That's not always the case. What's that like that they want to come back?
Well, I think that's a tribute to Baylor University, the community. I mean, they like coming back, going to the restaurants. They like coming back, seeing people that are in town that they got to know, that cheered for them. And then longevity is obviously important as well, because people don't come back to buildings. I mean, you come back to people, where you celebrate Christmas might be where your family is, not where your empty house is that you used to live in 20 years ago. So the fact that we've had so much carry, like Charlie Milton's been here for such a long time, most of our staff has, that it makes it easier for them to come back. Hopefully.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Scott Drew, the head coach at Baylor, with us on 365 Sports.
Scott, obviously, there's been a lot of things in college athletics that have changed over the summer. Revenue sharing's on the way. I saw an interview with Jerome a couple weeks ago where he said that now that you can kind of just say a number or negotiate kind of out in the open, it's made things a little easier recruiting wise. Do you agree with that? Or, I mean, obviously it's always going to be hard, but now that you know that you can, all right, this is what it is, so we can just kind of move ahead.
Well, I think we're all still trying to figure things out, because things change each and every year, it seems like. But the more transparent, the more open and honest conversations can be, because at the end of the day, it'd just be like, like when Smoke gets people coming after him, which happen all the time, and he's like, I'm not leaving unless it's $10 million. Like, if that could just come out up front, so like, no, they're only paying $5 million. Smoke's not going. You know what I mean? Like, so at the end of the day, you want to know what good business both parties benefit. You got to know what people are expecting, and that's part of a coach's job, to figure out who fits program wise and what their expectations are, and can you meet those expectations, not just from an NIL standpoint, but team chemistry wise. Their desires and dreams as far as roles and NBA aspirations.
By the way, can you negotiate my next contract, please?
I got you. We'll start with $20 million.
Okay.
My bad. I won't say 10 again.
Coach, the Big 12 conference schedules came out. Obviously, it's another year with a new look league, men's and women's side. For you, do programs get more of a heads up, or are you seeing that just like everybody else out in the general public is seeing that? And then just traditionally, how do you sort of start to digest that information? Do you kind of sit there and look through it all, or how does that process go for you?
Just for me, I first look at, do we play K-State and Texas Tech once or twice? And hopefully it's once. And then after that, you look and see who you play twice, and then where you play the people once. And then once you get done, I think every coach feels the exact same way. And that is, man, we got ripped off. This schedule's too hard, or we got the hardest schedule. And it's kind of like the NCAA tournament. Everybody gets their bracket come out, and they're like, we got the hardest bracket, And that's and with the Big 12, I don't spend a lot of time other than that first look at it, because at the end of the day, no matter who you have, it's going to be extremely hard to win any game. And they're all going to be a challenge, because when you play in the best conference, that's what you get night in and night out.
I think that it was earlier this week, the decision about the Maui Invitational, but now the Vegas NIL tournament. What goes into that decision, obviously, with the NIL? And you did that when you played, Michigan State up north. But your thoughts about the tournament in Vegas and that decision?
Well, that's something where we make decisions as a school department and whatnot, and we always try to put our players and program in the best situation possible. And I know with us, Smoke, I know you're big time. You always get comp, don't you, at the MGM for your big gambling? No,
Bellagio.
Yeah, Bellagio, it is, my bad. But what I do know is we've been successful in Vegas too. We've won tournaments in Vegas. Everybody likes going to Vegas. So wherever we play in our MT, it's always going to be extremely competitive because we want to play the best, and people normally want to have the best in them.
Do you think that all of the tournaments will now start maybe copying that model, though, as far as NIL and all that?
Yeah, I would definitely think that would be the way everybody would go, unless things change or dictated by the NCAA otherwise.
Coach, you have a new addition to the roster, and it was officially announced by the website, so I believe you can talk about it, right? In Marino Dubravcic, and please excuse me if I'm not pronouncing that name correctly, but a young man from Croatia that was put out there earlier today. So can you just talk about that addition and the young man and just kind of what all that means?
Yeah, excited about Marino. And one thing with international recruiting, things don't ever happen in a week or 2 weeks. Those are month, 2 months, 3 month processes to get the NCAA paperwork necessary to make sure academically and then eligibility wise they're cleared to play. So this has been something that's been in the works for quite some time. But as you know, it's always great to have young bigs in the program learning and developing and getting better. And that's something that we've been blessed to have. And that prepares our guys for games and it prepares bringing international players. Usually they have great skill set, and then they get to the States and improve the physicality and aggressiveness and going against the athleticism we have in the States. And so everybody benefits.
I have an NCAA change in a rule that I want to get to. This segment with Scott Drew, Baylor men's basketball coach, is brought to you by Richard Carr Motors, people you can count on. How much does the permitting 6 coaches now to go off campus to recruit, I think 4 at a time, but you have now more that can hit the road. How much does that help?
The NCAA continues to make rules that I think are more beneficial for each program. And why I say that is 6 coaches rather than 4 on the court allow us to do more individual workouts, give more attention to players. I mean, most NBA players have one strength coach, one workout coach, one nutritionist. So that's like 3 for 1. But like the more people that can help, many hands make light work. And then normally allowing 6 people to be on the court or go on the road gives experience for young guys or people that are taking over positions to learn and be groomed in them. So I think all of that is great for college basketball because, again, the more people to help raise young men, the better.
Scott, you've brought in some veteran leadership. You're going to have young players. Is this maybe that are going to play a lot this season? Is this a nice even mix throughout your roster of inexperience and veterans and guys who have at other schools played deep into tournaments, and you can kind of blend all that together?
Yeah, I truly each and every year we've had so much change with the portal and NIL and just different things. I think every coach each year wants to be able to have a team that when it comes a season and the final roster is put together that they can be competitive, win the conference and be with people that are going to represent their school and they want to coach and be with every day. And especially with so much change, like if you're just adding 3 players, your chance of getting it right are a lot greater than adding 8 or 9. And for us, we've been really, really blessed. Our staff's done a great job in bringing in talented players, good players, but most of all, great young men that really represent our program. And we want to go to practice every day and spend time with. And it's kind of like that first time you make that recipe, you just hope it works. And we were blessed last year. This year, thus far, we've been really blessed and really excited. And we have a great group. I know the Baylor family's going to be really excited to watch them play, compete. But I think they're going to really enjoy getting to know them, too, because we got some really good young men.
Last thing for me is that it seems like your roster is set. I know you could always look for more, or is it ever set anymore in this day and age of college athletics?
Well, I think if it is set, it's only set for that day.
Oh my goodness!
But again, that's the beauty of it. I mean, if you can finish when your roster is done, and you genuinely appreciate and like the players you have, and they have a chance to win conference or win the last game. I mean, that's really hard to do each and every year. And some years you'll get it right, some years you won't, because when you're doing that much mass change, there's a lot more margin for error.
By the way, everybody here, all of us, our thoughts and prayers continue to be with the family, with the loss of your mother. I know that had to be something you and I kind of traded some text messages back and forth. First time someone that close, of course, that you've had experience with that, and your prayers for your dad and everybody else, you and the Drew family.
Well, very kind of you to say, and our family really appreciated those that reached out. And I think we all can identify losing loved ones is never easy. I was blessed to have 80 great years with my mom, and I know where she's at. She's making sure that God's keeping them officials on point up there for us.
Thank you very much. I know she is. Scott Drew, who mother did a great job raising her sons, and we appreciate your time. Have a great weekend. Have a great rest of your summer. Scott Drew, after watching Jacoby Walter, East Missy, and then, of course, Ray J and Jalen both picked up as well right after the draft was over, after the second round yesterday afternoon.